The 10 brutal training only the 1% can do. Let's see if we're the 1%. Let's go.
When it comes to the military, there are ultimately no limits on the type of training that's done if the end result justifies the requirement. This means that soldiers often undergo training drills that are very difficult and sometimes downright dangerous. Make sure to keep
These videos are always kind of silly, but they're entertaining. Downright dangerous. That's part of the job, sweetheart.
Watching until the end to see why the U.S. Navy is made up of some of the toughest soldiers in the world. Now let's get into the 10 most intense military trainings from around the world. Guatemala's Kabylie Special Forces Unit undergoes intense training under physical and mental pressure to help prepare them for jungle warfare and counter-insurgency operations. With a slogan like, "If I go forward, follow me. If I stop, urge me on. If I retreat, kill me."
They often reference the Guatemalan Special Forces. I've never heard of anything they've done. Now, that doesn't mean anything. Hold on. But Guatemalan Special Forces are like a unicorn I've never seen.
Know that they mean business. It is even widely believed that recruits used to be taught some very unique methods of survival in order to show their ferocity. While their training today might not be as brutal as it used to be, Kabyles must climb up a rope, perform 5 pull-ups, 10 push-ups, and run 2 miles before eating. They do this throughout their 60-day training.
All right, so they must be human beings that aren't total couch potatoes. Too much Wikipedia here. Yeah, if you can't do that, you shouldn't even go in the military. If you can't do that, you need to get outside and walk. Get away from Call of Duty.
Before eating breakfast, lunch, and supper every single day. This is because the Kabyles believe that the right to eat has to be earned. Have you ever tried running 2 miles in the morning on an empty stomach? It's definitely not an easy task. In a training group of 40 candidates, only 7 or 8 actually become Kabyles in the end. It's even rumored that Kabyles are not allowed to sleep for more than 3 hours a day and that the right to sleep has to be earned as well. But the Kabyles aren't the only ones who...
Sounds like about all military training. You know, if you're on fire watch at night, you don't get a lot of sleep. You know, the right to eat, definitely. You know, if you guys are in the Marine Corps, somebody screws up in the chow hall, they kick the whole platoon out. You may be walking out with your tray and never eat a bite.
To harm others during their training. While in Thailand for the 2018 Cobra Gold, thousands of U.S. Marines participated in a Thai Marine jungle survival training class. Local Marines taught their American counterparts how to find food to eat if ever they found themselves stranded in the jungle. While the most important thing that they learned was how to get water from a vine, they also learned that snake blood could help keep them alive if they had no other options. The Thai Marines are...
Well, I bet the most important thing they learned was what not to eat, what not to drink. It's probably the most important thing. Because I think most of them have enough common sense how to get water. Now, what vines are going to produce more water, what have some poisonous sap in them. Because it's by locale. What you may do in, say, Florida will be different than what you do in Thailand. For those of you who haven't been there, it's hot, humid jungle. Can be mountainous.
Trained to catch cobras and to drink their blood in order to survive. They're also not afraid to eat the snake flesh and are even taught to snack on scorpions, geckos, and bugs. While learning to eat these types of food isn't really necessary for soldiers in America, it's totally normal training for the Thai Marines. It may not be dangerous, but we definitely would not want to be in their shoes. It almost feels like we're talking about an episode of Fear Factor instead of a military training drill. However, these eating habits are integral to surviving the jungle when you find yourself without traditional sustenance. The co-passes.
Now the cobra blood thing's become just a gimmick, right? A good press clip, photo op. How much blood are you going to get from a cobra? I guess if that's the last thing, get a little bit of nutrient before you actually kick off. There's good training there, but that event is just for the television cameras.
Special Forces of Indonesia are another military group that's trained to drink the blood of snakes for survival purposes. When former U.S. Secretary of Defense Jim Mattis visited Indonesia at the start of 2018, he was treated to a demonstration of their different skills. Besides biting snakes, the soldiers showed off their ability to break bricks using their heads. They even broke through towers of bricks that were set on fire with their bare fists. The Kopassus are also trained to roll.
It's like Cirque du Soleil. It's fun to watch. It's great athleticism, but is there any use to it? That's what this is. And guys stepping on fire, breaking bricks with their head. I guess it's entertainment for the top brass and Jim Mattis when he came, but not very useful.
Around in glass, walk across burning boards, and climb a ladder of swords without any shoes. As a military troop that conducts special operations missions for the Indonesian government, these guys are taught how to handle anything that might come their way. As per their training demonstration, building up their ability to endure pain is clearly a priority. So is the idea that soldiers must be fearless in the face of danger. Do you think that being able to break a brick with your head makes you a better soldier? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.
All right, I'm going to give her my comment. No. I knew a lot of rocks in the military. You know, guys are really stupid. Being able to break a brick with your head, I don't see serves any purpose or makes you tougher.
The U.S. Navy is arguably one of the top special operations forces in the world. They're brought in for missions that are above the capability of conventional military forces, so you can bet that they go through a tough training program. Perhaps one of the more controversial parts of that program is the SERE Level C training facility, designed for Navy.
Well, a lot of guys go through SERE training. Did a video about this in the Arctic SERE training. You could be a pilot flying a C-130. You could be DOD personnel. Anybody that's useful to the enemy may go to SERE training. Could be a sniper. Not just SEALs. I think SERE training is a little bit overdone. I don't think it's 1% when you got fat pilot who goes because they may get shot down.
Who have a high risk of capture and exploitation. Alongside the traditional classroom learning, students are also thrown into a field training exercise that has them practicing their survival and evasion skills outdoors. Then there's the Resistance Training Laboratory, which is a mock POW camp in which students are tested on their
There's the Coast Guard. That's not quite it, but that's good enough B-roll.
Ability to resist interrogation. According to former students of the program, they were humiliated throughout their training. The SERE, Survival, Evasion, Resistance, and Escape School, uses various techniques that are designed to push their students to the edge in an attempt to break them. They're basically injured and interrogated in a realistic way to prepare them in case they ever do.
Well, all this B-roll doesn't matter, but if you don't eat for a period of time, they teach you some survival skills, some field craft, right? Then all of a sudden, they keep you up. So now you're delirious, hungry. Maybe they still waterboard. Maybe there's something similar. And there's lots of ways to make somebody aggravated or irritated when they're tired and hungry.
Get captured by the enemy in the future. Being able to endure mental exhaustion is one thing, but being able to endure physical exhaustion and pain is a whole other ballgame. At the end of a multi-week amphibious training program in Taiwan, the Marine Corps that want to become frogmen must complete an exercise known as the Road to Heaven. This exercise consists of them crawling over jagged coral rocks while wearing nothing but shorts. To start the crawl.
Now, I think that's a bigger deal for the families watching than it is the guys doing it. That doesn't look like it serves much of a purpose except like a ceremony, right? Like the rite of passage, pricking your finger when you're in the mob. Does it really matter? No. These guys, it matter to them? Probably not. But it's the rite of passage, right? It's like part of the deal. You expect that.
The candidates must let themselves fall from an upright position onto the floor. They then begin to crawl on their knees and elbows across the path of razor-sharp rocks. The recruits often shout, "I don't fear pain," as they complete the task. The path also has 10 stopping points in which exercises must be performed before moving on. Instructors also pour salt water onto their open wounds to make the task even more painful for them. Even after making it through, an instructor can decide to make the recruit perform the task again if they aren't satisfied with how it was done. While this training supposedly simulates landing on a rocky beach, it's mainly used as a test to see if the candidates can endure the pain. After completing the exercise, they become elite.
I suspect it's a test that no one fails. You get to this point in training, you're going to go ahead and crawl over the rocks, whatever. Yeah, you get some scrapes and bumps and bruises. I don't know, it serves a lot, but yeah, it's traditional, right? And that's the part about it that's reality. I don't think it's a 1%er.
Soldiers, which makes it all worthwhile. Now let's get back to talking about the U.S. Navy, because they truly do go through some of the most intense training techniques in the world. One of the rigorous exercises that they're put through happens during their dive phase. Navy personnel have to be comfortable with water, and they need to learn how to remain calm in all sorts of scary water-based situations. Another tactic is to push candidates underwater without their oxygen tanks to simulate what it's like to be trapped under ice. Navy SEALs.
Well, if you're going to be a diver, right, any kind of scuba diver, take aside the SEAL training, the combatives, you better be comfortable under the water. I mean, if you're going to get your scuba certificate, they're going to take your regulator, do some things, you know how to fix it if there's a problem. That's not atypical. For people that are scared of water, it's terrible. Now, obviously, there's more to this training than that, but Frogmen's mission traditionally has been, hey, we're going into bad areas, nasty water at night. Let's figure out how to do it. And these guys come back. So this stuff is very important to what frogmen or Navy SEALs traditionally were used for.
Will have to go through a drown-proofing test in which their hands are tied behind their backs, their feet are bound, and they then have to complete a number of tasks underwater like that. If they don't succeed, they are removed from the training. While the candidates do struggle to breathe and are pushed to exhaustion in the water, which could be very dangerous, the point is to teach them how to relax and get comfortable in precarious situations. We've talked about breaking cinder blocks with bare fists and noggins.
And that's it, right? Make sure these guys aren't going to be a freak show underwater. Some guys can hide it a little bit, and then when they start sucking in some water, they just can't snap out of it. I've seen guys like that surfing as a kid, swimming long distances. I grew up on an island, no SEAL training, but typically people that are scared of water don't go unless they see a recruiting ad and they go, I want to be a SEAL. Not realizing that the SEALs are a very tiny part of the Navy. So they may end up being a coxswain or painting a deck somewhere if they don't make it. But let's keep going.
Ready, but Russia's Spetsnaz Special Force training takes things to a whole new level. They're known for their extreme pain management training, which includes having blocks placed on their heads, backs, or stomachs, and then having a fellow soldier break them with a sledgehammer. These blocks are sometimes even set on fire, because why not? These Russian soldiers are also trained to handle getting full power punches and kicks to the chest and stomach areas. While some might find this training method to be a tad abusive, it's all part of teaching these soldiers how.
Some find everything abusive, and some should not be in the military. But the same some, when there's a problem somewhere, want to send the military to take care of it, right? So, you know, it's like surgery. I want my surgery fixed. If I watched it, I may find it abusive, but I still want my knee fixed.
Handle pain. If they can't handle getting kicked by a colleague in a non-life-threatening situation, then they'll never be able to handle getting blindsided by the enemy during a real-life situation. Their training gets even more brutal than that. They go through an exercise in which they must fight off 2 other soldiers who are coming at them with burning sticks in their hand. If they're not fast enough, they get whacked with a fire stick. The Spetsnaz are definitely an elite military group.
Now, getting whacked with a fire stick doesn't sound like a big deal. You're not going to catch on fire, right? Unless you've got some sort of liquid on you, like gas or something. You know, people read this stuff and they make these videos, and it's kind of a joke. If you're in the military, so what? If you get hit with a fire stick?
That we wouldn't want to mess with. But the Russians and Taiwanese aren't the only ones exposing their soldiers to pain. As part of the U.S. Air Force basic military training, trainees must go through an excruciating experience in a gas chamber that's known as the confidence chamber. It's basically a test that they undergo to teach them to have confidence in their nuclear, biological, and chemical equipment. After putting their protective mask on properly, they have to walk into a gas chamber.
Well, I think everybody goes to the gas chamber, don't they? I know we had to go at least once a year periodically. I can't remember. Maybe it's more than that. Gas chamber does kind of suck, and it's similar to swimming. So if you don't like water going up your nose, not being able to breathe, you get in the gas chamber, and all of a sudden, if you breathe in a lot, you start get a bunch of mucus run out of your nose, your eyes burn. So if you're a freak show, the gas chamber is going to suck. If you're a normal guy who can just relax and realize you'll be done with this soon, you're going to be fine.
That's full of tear gas. If they put their masks on incorrectly, they will feel the effects of the tear gas immediately. Right before leaving the chamber, the trainees are all asked to remove their masks so they can experience what it would actually be like inside. Trainees leave the chamber with painful eyes and often have trouble breathing.
Yeah, you're missing the running in place, push-ups, side straddle hops, all the good stuff, where the guys that were holding their breath can't do it anymore. And usually the gas chamber is so full of smoke, you can see your hand in front of your face, but that's about it. You're not going to see far. Maybe just in boot camp, but every time I was in the gas chamber, even outside of boot camp, there was plenty of gas in there, so you weren't faking it. But it's not a big deal.
For a few minutes afterwards. While it's not at all a pleasant experience, you can bet that everyone is sure to put their equipment on correctly after going through the confidence chamber. It also teaches them how to stay calm and not panic when their bodies are under duress. As you can probably imagine, there's not a lot of time for soldiers to rest while they're on duty. That's why the U.S. Navy SEALs purposely go through sleep deprivation training to prepare them for what's to come. As part of what's known as Hell Week, they're forced to stay awake for 5 days straight, while they are given the opportunity.
Now that can get tricky. So if you've ever had to stay awake for days on end and function, you get pretty looped. There was a study years back where they looked at drunks versus people that are missing sleep, and I think the people missing sleep were more likely to get in a car crash than a drunk. So that can be a problem. Now, out of all these ones we've seen, which do you think is the hardest? So if you get a phobia of water, maybe that would be. The sleep thing, some people just require 8 hours or can't function. Let me know in the comments.